And oh my gosh, Alon speaks out. If you don't know who Alon is, she's like, who the fuck is that? That is the person who does BetterHelp. He is the founder of BetterHelp. He is actually speaking out. Now, we know there's been some tweets and stuff between his company and Philip Defranco. We will cover that at some point. Honestly, guys, there's been so much information to keep up with. And with getting sick, it's just so hard to keep up with getting everything out. So I'm gonna do my best over time to get everything out to you guys that I feel is important. But he actually wrote an article for medium.com where, from my perspective, it seems like a big PR fluff piece. That's how I look at it. And I found it very, very interesting, some of the stuff he said, and in my opinion, more importantly, the stuff he didn't say, which makes me really question everything. And you know the worst part? I've been on the receiving end of the conspiracy theories on YouTube. Y'all know what I've been through. He may be a really nice guy that just didn't do shit well and got in over his head. It's possible. You know, and I go back and forth between wanting to have compassion and wanting to be like, this is awful. So I'm still, like, I wouldn't say I'm on the fence because I'm still very much like, I think what's happening is awful and it needs to be fixed. But I'm trying to also keep open for the human side of people. It's a shitty line to walk when you have empathy. So anyways, without further ado, I'm gonna read the article and then I'm gonna go over some things that I wanna showcase and some information that I think is interesting and hypocritical to what he has said. So take a look. Posted on medium.com from Alice Metis. It says, entrepreneur, father, founder of BetterHelp. I like the father part, like it's trying to tug on our heartstrings and play to our emotions that he's a father. Just wanted to point that out there. It's just weird. When do you ever read an article that either somebody wrote or there's written about somebody where literally, where it says underneath like their name, their title is father? I just found that weird, so here we go. When BetterHelp found itself in a YouTube controversy. I'm BetterHelp's founder. Here are my thoughts. All companies strive to bring value to their customers, but very few companies can truly say that their value is to enable a better life. BetterHelp, the company I founded 5 years ago, is one of those. We have helped hundreds of thousands of people conquer their most profound challenges by providing access to affordable, private, professional counseling from a licensed therapist. For so many people, BetterHelp has been a life changer. Literally. A huge perk of working at such an extraordinary organization is the heartwarming feedback and emails we get on a daily basis. To date, over 30,000 people have voluntarily come forward to share their experiences of how BetterHelp affected their lives. While other companies may show numbers like revenue and profits on their dashboards, the big screen in our office shows the latest testimonials we received. Knowing that we were able to help people, sometimes while they were in their darkest moments, motivates us and fills us with passion and pride every day. That's why it has been an unusual experience over the last week when we found ourselves in the midst of a social media storm. While almost all of the negative attention did not come from any of our members or from people who have used the product, it was still disheartening to see. Right, it didn't come from people who've actually used the product, which is all those bad reviews and screw Dash Chroma and what she went through, right? So how did it all start? One of our core missions is to destigmatize mental health. We firmly believe that nobody should ever feel ashamed or embarrassed to reach out for help. For that reason, we partnered with people who share our mission and are willing to discuss these issues publicly. There is no better way to give people the courage to seek help than knowing that other people, despite being famous and successful, may be struggling as well. Earlier this year, we teamed up with Kevin Love, an all-star NBA player, who was candid about his mental health struggles and described in detail how therapy has changed his life. As part of this initiative, we also supported and sponsored several YouTube creators who have long been discussing challenges around well-being. Many of them have also used our service and have been proponents of counseling and caring for your mental health. In late September, one of his creators published an episode of his video series and mentioned BetterHelp as his sponsor. Unfortunately, on that video, he also picked a virtual fight with another YouTube host who has several million followers. While most of that drama was purely for entertainment purposes, Not everybody saw it that way, including many of the popular host's fan base. The attacks on the YouTube creator quickly became attacks on BetterHelp as a sponsor, although we had no control, oversight, or prior knowledge about the content. Then things escalated quickly. The community of creators and fans on YouTube can be passionate and intense like no other. In part, this is what makes it fun to watch and follow. With such a high volume of content being produced for YouTube, it makes sense that there is a whole genre of creators that exists solely to react to the actions of other creators, often in scandalous and sensational ways, flirting between truth and fiction. One of these channels, sensing interest, produced a video exposing and smearing the YouTube creator and BetterHelp as the sponsor. In their effort to show that BetterHelp is a scam, and therefore the YouTube creator is also a scammer, they dug into our legal terms and conditions document. They found that although we claim our providers are licensed therapists, we have a disclaimer that asks users to also verify their counselor's licensing information. The conclusion, in quotes, was that the counselors at BetterHelp are not verified and everybody can be a provider, thus exposing people to inadequate and potentially dangerous care. Of course, it couldn't be further from the truth. As we explain on our site, we have a whole team that makes sure every provider we bring to the platform is fully licensed and in good standing. Providers who apply are required to provide proper licensure documentation, proof of identity, and references from other licensed practitioners who have worked with them. We then cross-check their licensure information with their respective state licensing board. Additionally, our vetting process for each provider, which typically takes 4 to 5 weeks, goes well beyond checking credentials. Each potential provider needs to complete a case study exam by a licensed clinician and in video interview. The result of this rigorous process is that only about 15% of the therapists who apply to work through BetterHelp are accepted to the platform, but none of it mattered. A known rule of the internet is that nobody can ever predict or explain virality. Something that looks like a sure hit can be ignored and forgotten, while something else that is entirely meritless can catch and go viral because of a perfect storm of coincidences. Unfortunately for us, these ridiculous allegations were fueled by the YouTube drama that took a life of its own. Within days, there were multiple videos discussing BetterHelp scam, mostly quoting and referencing each other in frantic echo chamber. To keep the fire going and to produce original content that brings new revelations, the false accusations spiraled and expanded. BetterHelp is sharing information with Microsoft. BetterHelp is used for training AI bots. BetterHelp is stealing money from users. BetterHelp is operated by the Mossad. Yes, seriously. And more. One of our favorite conspiracy theories was that our business model is selling data to third parties. This is such a far-fetched conspiracy that I feel awkward addressing it. Our model is simple. Members pay a fee to get counseling. Counselors are paid to provide counseling. We are in the counseling business, not the data business. There's nothing we take more seriously than the security and privacy of our members. It also goes without saying that counseling is strictly regulated space, and selling such data would be a gross violation of federal laws, state laws, HIPAA regulations, and our own terms and privacy policy. So what did I learn? It was fascinating to see how most bizarre and senseless ideas can spread. One person writes a wild speculation, and then a second person quotes it as fact. Then it's quoted and repeated by a third and fourth person, and by the time it gets to the fifth, he already heard the same thing from 4 other people, and if so many people said the exact same thing, it surely must be true. At some point, BetterHelp was the second highest trending thread in the conspiracy section of Reddit, next to some other really weird stuff. So, are we perfect? No, we're not. First, there was an issue of the disclaimer in the terms and conditions about our limited liability in ensuring counselor licensure. Yes, it's standard legalese, and a similar disclaimer can be found, almost word for word, in the terms and conditions of many similar platforms. But it's also possible to see how this can make someone feel uncomfortable. Besides, with our rigorous vetting process, it's simply unnecessary. Therefore, we decided to update the terms and conditions on October 4th. We removed this disclaimer altogether. Second, some commenters quoted alleged experiences of unsatisfied users who encountered either technical issues, billing issues, or service quality issues. We were unable to verify the authenticity of any of these claims, but it's inevitable that on a platform that has facilitated over 30 million counseling interactions, there have been cases where we did not meet expectations. Our dedicated and proactive support team is there to take care of such unfortunate incidents, whether by helping users to find an alternative therapist or by resolving other concerns. In 2016, we adopted an unprecedented extreme total satisfaction policy, which means that every user who feels unsatisfied for any reason is entitled to a full refund. We are one of the few online service companies at this scale which received a perfect A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau for exceptional customer care. We are proud of this rare achievement. How did it all affect us? Ironically, over this interesting week, we've had a record number of new members who signed up. It seems that these events ended up creating more awareness for the service, and most people were perfectly capable of distinguishing between reality and fiction. During this time, we've also received tremendous encouragement from many people who expressed their gratitude for what we did for them or their loved ones. This support has truly helped our team to remain determined and focused on fulfilling our mission. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me directly. Yours, Alon Mattis, founder, BetterHelp. Okay, so I wanted to read the article in full context to you, and now I'm going to respond to the things I think are most important, and then we'll go over some of the other little things at the end if I'm able to, because I have several notes, so some of this might be really edited up and chopped up from my part. I just want to make sure I give you guys all the information accurately. So the first one that stands out to me is when he talks about information, selling information and privacy policy. So let's look at that one again. Again, he says one of our favorite conspiracy theories was that our business model is selling data to third parties. This is such a far-fetched conspiracy that I feel awkward addressing it. Our model is simple. Members pay a fee to get counseling. Counselors are paid to provide counseling. We are in the counseling business, not in the data business. There is nothing we take more seriously than the security and privacy of our members. It also goes without saying that counseling is strictly regulated space, and selling such data would be a gross violation of federal laws, state laws, HIPAA regulation, and our own terms and privacy policy. Now, and I've talked about this a little bit before, this is where, from everything I have seen, if you guys think I've missed something, tell me, but from what I have seen, I have looked over the terms of service and the privacy policy with a fine-tooth comb, and I've had a friend help me with it as well. Granted, I'm sick, there might be something I'm missing, as we've seen I've made a mistake before, but from what I have seen when it comes to this stuff, when it comes to the privacy policy and the terms of service, it doesn't directly talk about selling information. But there's a lot of creepy, loose-based wording around we could give it to third parties. Third parties can access it. We can send it to third parties. And the scary part that I feel like is really misleading and what they've said is that they're saying, oh, well, it would go against all these different laws. Yes, unless you bypass those laws. And so one of the things that we saw, and I'm going to pull it up, in the privacy policy is that they have said that they can take your information and store it offline or online in places outside the United States that don't have the same privacy policy laws. And if that's the case, then wouldn't it be open season and bypassing those laws? It's stuff like that is where I don't fully trust this article, because even though it talked about, okay, well, yeah, we said we didn't vet people, but we do, so we took this part out. They did say that, but they're not actually addressing anything and any of the concerns from the privacy policy. So what I want to do is I want to go over those parts of the privacy policy again so you can see the concerns they didn't address, and this is why I still find this whole thing so shady and suspect. Take a look. Per the privacy policy, when you use the platform, you accept and agree to both the terms and conditions and to the privacy policy. If you do not agree to be bound to the privacy policy, you should stop using the platform immediately. By accessing and using our platform, you affirm that you have read the terms and conditions and the privacy policy, and that you understand, agree, and acknowledge to all the terms and conditions in both of them. Okay, so if you, basically with the terms and conditions, if you agree the terms and conditions, you agree the privacy policy. Okay, it's weird. I think they should have it in the same place, but all right. Profile information. We may ask you several questions about you and your needs. Profile information. This information is shared with providers that use our platform. We may use the profile information either by itself or in conjunction with other information for the following purposes: match you with a provider, help us and our providers get to know you and your needs, and collect and analyze statistical or aggregated information which is not personally identifiable. Now let's go to log data. When you use the platform, our servers or servers of a third-party service automatically record information that your browser sends, log data. This log data may include, but not limited to, information such as your computer, internet protocol address, IP, pages that you visited, and the time spent on those pages, actions that you take, and other statistics. We may use this information either by itself or in conjunction with other information for the following purposes: monitor, analyze, and improve the use and functionality of the platform's technical operation, and the match of the platform functionality to your needs and preferences. Session content. While using the platform, you and a provider would likely write or say things by means of text-based communication, such as messages, verbal communication, or video communication, either internally or to each other, collectively session content. This session content is shared with the providers that work with you. The session content may be used either by itself or in conjunction with other information for the following purposes: let a provider provide the service to you, supervise, administer, and monitor the service, allow professional supervision to the provider by qualified professionals. Note that all communications transmitted through the platform may be recorded or monitored for quality assurance and training purposes and become part of a file and your records. Cookies and web beacon. Like many websites, we use cookies and web beacons to collect information. A cookie is a small data file that is being transferred to your computer's hard disk for record-keeping purposes. A web beacon is a tiny image placed on a web page or email that can report your visit or use. We use cookies and web beacons to enable the technical operations of the platform, to administer your login to your account, and to collect the log data. You can change your browser's settings so it will stop accepting cookies or to prompt you before accepting a cookie. However, if you don't accept cookies, you may not be able to use the platform. The platform may also include the use of cookies and web beacons of services owned or provided by third parties that are not covered by our privacy policy, and we do not have access or control over these cookies or web beacons. Social and general informational tools. We would be using several publicly available tools and information exchange resources, such as, but not limited to, a blog, a Facebook page, a Twitter account, a Google Plus account, and others. Collectively, social and general information tools. Any information you provide or share by using the social and general information tools may be freely read, accessed, collected, and used by others. Aggregate information and non-identifying information. We may share aggregate information that does not include any personal information with third parties for any purpose, including but not limited to industry analysts, research, business transaction, and public relations. Transfer of business. We may sell or transfer some of all of our assets, including your personal information, in connection with a merger, acquisition, consolidation, joint venture, reorganization, or sale of assets. Such transactions would be covered by a confidentiality agreement. Service providers. We may employ third-party companies and individuals to facilitate our platform to perform certain tasks which are related to the platform or to provide audit, legal, operational, or other services for us. These tasks include, but are not limited to, customer service, technical maintenance, monitoring, email management and communication, database management, billing and payment processing, reporting and analytics. When needed, we may disclose information, including personal information, to such third parties, but we will try to limit the personal information disclosed to the minimum necessary to perform their tasks. International transfer. Your information may be transferred to and maintained on computers located outside of your state, province, country, or other governmental jurisdictions where the privacy laws may not be as protective as those in your jurisdiction. If you are located outside the United States and choose to provide information to us, we may transfer personal information to the United States and process it there. If you are located in the United States and choose to provide information to us, we may also transfer some personal information outside the U.S. and process it there. Your consent to this privacy policy, followed by your submission of such information, represents your agreement to such transfers. Data retention. You may review, update, correct, or delete the personal information in your account by contacting us or by editing it online. If you would like us to delete your personal information or any other information from our system, please contact us with such request. We will use commercially reasonable efforts to honor your request. However, we may retain and archive copies of your records as required by law for legitimate business purposes or for record-keeping purposes. There may also be residual information that will retain within our databases and other records, including, without limitation, some data that may be still archived and stored offline. We are not responsible for removing information from our third parties that we have already legitimately shared personal information about you. Funny, if you look where it says legitimate business purposes or for record-keeping purposes, record-keeping, there's no space between that. Just wanted to point it out because there are many, many errors in this that we keep finding. Additional information about third-party cookies. We use third-party cookies for the purpose of web analytics and attribution, anonymous statistics on how our platform is in use, and error management, measuring of any errors that occur on the platform. We don't allow third parties to use the cookies for any other purpose. So there you have it. These are all of these issues that were in the privacy policy. Did anybody else see any of these addressed anywhere else in what he wrote? No, like I didn't. Honest to God, I didn't. So that's why to me, it's stuff like this that seems shady because I'm like, well, why wasn't this talked about? Y'all, I've got to fix my camera. I just had another battery issue. Okay, I'm gonna really listen and pay attention. I hope that there's not any information missing this time. I'm gonna try to cover everything. That's why sometimes in videos, you'll see a video and I might repeat something 2 or 3 times. It's probably because the battery had died at a certain place and I'm like, shit, did I put that in there? Did I not put that in there? So it's not that I think you guys are stupid, it's that there's something going on with my tech and I is kind of poor to fix it right now. So anyway, let's continue. Yeah, so I'm trying to get my train of thought back. We didn't see any of these other things that he listed. All he was really concerned about were the terms and conditions. And there's other weird stuff in there too. Y'all just saw it. I know you just heard it. Stuff like, well, you know, if you want us to delete your info, you can send us a special request. We'll do our best, but if a third party has it. And the reasons they're saying the third party has them, that's the stuff that gets me. Oh, for quality assurance and monitoring and training, yet they take no responsibility over their counselors and have nothing to do with the counseling sessions. So quality assurance for what then? Monitoring and training for what? Because I don't think if that's the case, you're going to be training your counselors that way. And furthermore, and I think I've said this before in other videos, this goes against ethics. Listening in to somebody else's counseling session goes directly against ethics. In that case, what you would want to do is like you would hire actors and set up a mock counseling session to train people. But these aren't employees. These are independent contractors, and they've clearly stated we barely even check the licensure. We don't check that stuff. And we're going to get to that in just a second with the terms of service because in the article, and this is really, really irritating too. So in the article, they're like, oh, we do this vetting process. But then in the terms of service, you have all of these additional places where they say, yeah, we don't know, maybe, maybe not, it's still on you. And they take zero responsibility. So with the terms and service, guys, if you guys saw the video where I talked about how BetterHelp and I had been tweeting back and forth, if you haven't, go see that video. But I talk about how BetterHelp and I had been tweeting back and forth, and it was October 3rd, I believe. And I was looking at the terms and conditions, and they lied right to my face. October 4th, they changed it. So I wanted to showcase the change that they made and the other things in the terms and conditions that they didn't address in this article. So take a look. This is what was removed from the terms and conditions. While we may try to do so from time to time, in our sole discretion, you acknowledge that we do not represent to verify and do not guarantee the verification of the skills, degrees, qualifications, licensure, certification, credentials, competence, or background of any counselor. It is your responsibility to conduct independent verification regarding any counselor that provides you with counselor services, whether through the platform or not, and we strongly recommend that you will conduct this verification prior to counseling. So that's what they removed, but here is still what exists within the terms and conditions. Take a look. The counselors and counselor service. The platform enables you to communicate with a counselor, consultant, practitioner, professional, expert, coach, advisor, or any other person, in parentheses, collectively, counselor, quote unquote, for the purpose of getting counseling, information, advice, or any other input, benefit, or service, collectively, counselor services, in quotes. The counselors are neither our employees nor agents, nor representatives. Furthermore, we assume no responsibility for any act, omission, or doing of any counselor. We make no representation or warranty whatsoever as to the willingness or ability of the counselor to give advice. We make no representation or warranty whatsoever as to whether you will find the counselor's services relevant, useful, correct, relevant, again, let's double up on the relevant, satisfactory, or suitable to your needs. We do not control the quality of the counselor's services, and we do not determine whether any counselor is qualified to provide any specific service, as well as whether a counselor is categorized correctly or matched correctly to you. Your relationship relating to the counselor's services is strictly with the counselor. We are not involved in any way with the actual substance of that counselor or any part of the counselor's service, whether provided through the platform or not. And we do not validate or involve. Hold on, let's read that again. And we do not validate or involved. How does that make sense? And we do not validate or involved in any of the counselor's services. Again, the grammar is horrific in some of these places when they talk about, oh, it's legalese, but where's the fucking grammar of your legalese? Use of the platform. You agree, confirm, and acknowledge that although the counselor may provide the counselor services through the platform, we cannot assess whether the use of the counselor services, or the platform is right and suitable for your needs. The platform does not include the provisions of medical care, mental health services, or other professional services by us. As operators of the platform, our role is strictly limited to facilitating the communication between you and the counselor and to enable the provision of the counselor services. It is up to you to consider and decide whether these services are appropriate for you or not. You agree, confirm, and acknowledge that you are aware of the fact that the counselor services are not a complete substitute for a face-to-face examination and or session by a licensed, qualified professional. You should never rely on or make health or well-being decisions which are primarily based on information provided as part of the counselor services. Furthermore, we strongly recommend that you will consider seeking advice by having an in-person appointment with a licensed and qualified professional. Never disregard, avoid, or delay in obtaining medical advice from your doctor or other qualified healthcare counselors by face-to-face appointment because of information or advice you receive through the platform. The platform is not intended for diagnosis, including information regarding which drugs or treatment that may be appropriate for you. And you should also disregard any such advice if delivered through the platform. You are advised to exercise a high level of care and caution in the use of the platform and the counselor services. By agreeing to this agreement, you are also agreeing to the terms of the platform privacy policy available at betterhelp.com/privacy. The privacy policy. The privacy policy is incorporated into and deemed a part of this agreement. The same rules that apply regarding changes and revisions of this agreement also apply to the changes and revisions of the privacy policy. This is the part of the terms of service where they basically say, hey, when you agree to the terms of service, you're agreeing to the privacy policy, and here's the link. I think they should have had everything on the same page. So do the terms of service right under that privacy policy, and you have to agree. This part looks a little weird to me, but that's just how it looks. So anyways, we'll continue. Further disclaimer of warranty. This is all capital letters. You hereby release us and agree to hold us harmless from any and all causes of action and claims of any nature resulting from the provider's services or the platform, including, without limitation, any act, omission, opinion, response, advice, suggestion, information, and or services of any mental health professional or any other provider in a field requiring licensure and or certification who may be accessed through the platform. You agree, confirm, and acknowledge that we do not review, recommend, endorse, evaluate, or provide any guarantee, representation, or warranty, and specifically disclaim all representation and warranties with respect to A, any provider, B, any information about any provider, including without limitation, any qualifications, expertise, claims is spelt wrong, with an E, or background of any provider, C, the provider's services, whether through the platform or not, including, without limitation, any opinion, response, advice, recommendation, information, or any other content written or said by a provider, D, the content and the substance which are part of the provider's services, E, any other content or information posted on the platform or through the platform, F, the validity, accuracy, availability, completeness, safety, legality, security, PriveAct, y'all know PriveAct is my fucking favorite, quality or applicability of the platform and the provider services. You agree, confirm, and acknowledge that the platform is provided as is, and therefore, you will not have any claim or demand against us. The use of the platform is at your sole risk. To the fullest extent of the law, we expressly disclaim all warranties of any kind, whether expressed or implied, including, but not limited to, merchantability, non-infringement, security, fitness for a particular purpose, or accuracy. Any consultation with the provider via the platform cannot and does not replace meeting with a professional. You are encouraged to verify the information provided by the providers. Any reliance on such information is done at the full and sole risk and liability of you. We do not assume and will not be liable for A, the accuracy or availability of the platform or any other part of the platform, or B, any damages, harm, or injury arising from or related to the platform, the providers, or the provider's service. Limitation of liability. You agree, confirm, and acknowledge that we shall not be liable to you or to any third party for any indirect, incidental, consequential, special, punitive, or exemplary damages. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of everything we've heard that they didn't address. So even though they removed that stanza, here's still what exists when you sign up at BetterHelp. They still can't guarantee the ability or the willingness for a counselor to give good advice. They still can't guarantee they're gonna hook you up with a counselor that's relevant or suits your needs, even though the advertising says all the opposite. They still say that they don't control whether or not a counselor is qualified to even give you advice. They say they don't control the quality of the counselor's services, or whether a counselor is even qualified to give you any specific service that you sign up for, or again, to match them to your needs. They say they're not involved anyway with the counselor service between you and the counselor and what happens, yet they're recording your calls for training and quality assurance purposes and monitoring and administering. How's that work? They say repeatedly that the platform is not here for mental health issues. This is not something you go to when you need mental help for mental health. How does that make any sense? And several times it states counselors are not a substitute for a face-to-face examination by somebody who is a licensed therapist. It states this several times in here, which goes against, for my opinion, the marketing and the advertising they did. They also say don't disregard any information that your mental health care provider or your actual doctor say if somebody gives you advice on the app. Which to me, I understand why, I kind of understand what they're saying, but that also doesn't make sense. So what's the point of even having the app if you can't actually trust the people on the app to help you or help diagnose you or get what you need correctly? It just seems like you're throwing your money away. This is one we might talk about. It says the platform cannot diagnose or tell you what drugs to take. However, in Boogie 2988's situation, the person actually did recommend drugs and get him on drugs. Granted, she did that through his doctor, which seems like the appropriate steps, but then apparently Amy Slayton, who's also been promoting this, said she got diagnosed through the app. So I don't know, there's some up in there about this one too, but this is what is in the terms of service. And what bothers me is they tell you to exercise high levels of caution when using this app. Why should you have to do that? Like, isn't that what BetterHelp is supposed to do? Make it so that you don't have to exercise this extreme caution and you can feel comfortable with the counselor that you're given that they apparently vet, but then they don't vet depending on what they want to do with their terms of service. And remember, they're not held liable for anything that happens, but they're still recording and monitoring your crap for training purposes. And they say it doesn't replace a meeting with an actual mental health professional or licensed therapist, so make sure, and they keep encouraging, they've encouraged it 3 or 4 times in here, to keep seeking additional help outside of BetterHelp app. Which again, just seems counterintuitive and counterproductive to why even trying the app. Like if the app is all about, if you don't have the money for counseling, do this, but then they're saying, well, this isn't a substitute for counseling. So which one is it? Also, they make sure to let you know anything that happens, you are sole risk. It is your sole discretion and sole risk what happens, and BetterHelp has nothing to do with what happens between you and your counselor. And then I like this one. They're not liable for any accuracy or availability of the platform. Well, this is where, again, the wording gets funny. So does that mean that BetterHelp could take your money for the month, and then if the app goes down, you're screwed? Is that what that means? Or does it mean, well, if the counselor doesn't show up, you're still kind of screwed unless we decide to go ahead and try to fix the situation. See, it's loose wording like this that really bothers me. Now, let's go ahead and summarize the privacy policy and what he didn't even touch in at all with the privacy policy other than to say, this is a conspiracy and we don't sell your information. So let's look at this one.
So here's the overview for the privacy policy. They may use our info to collect and analyze statistical or aggregate info which is not personally identifiable. Log data sent to third-party providers' servers, which are used to monitor, analyze, and improve the platform. Session content may be used, either by itself or in conjunction with other info, for the following purposes: supervise, administer, and monitoring services, allow professional supervision to the provider by qualified professionals. All communications transferred through the platform may be recorded for quality assurance and training purposes and become part of your file and records. Any info you provide via your social media pages may be freely read, accessed, collected, and used by others. They may share aggregate information that does not include any personal information with third parties, including but not limited to industry analysts, research, business transactions, and public relations. They may sell your info to transfer your personal info in connection with a merger, selling of business, or the sale of assets. May involve third-party providers to provide audit, legal, operational, or other services, included but not limited to customer service, monitoring, technical maintenance, email management and communication, database management, billing, processing, reporting, and analytics. They may disclose personal information to third parties, but will try to limit that if possible. Your info may be transferred to and maintained on computers or servers outside the United States or governmental jurisdiction where the privacy laws may not be as protective. They may process your information outside the United States. To delete all personal information, you have to write them specifically and ask, and they may or may not delete it all. And if they delete some, it's very possible they will retain archived copies of records required by law for bookkeeping. There also may be residual information left on their databases, including but not limited to storing your information offline in other countries. They are not responsible for removing your info from third parties that they have already shared it with.
Okay, so there you have it. These were the biggest issues that I had with this. There were a few others, but I thought this video was going to be too long, and honestly, I'm too exhausted to get into them. And there's one other that I'll go over. It was the one at the very end, the one where he says, well, in the process, we have all these new users and we're doing better than ever before. So this is why it sounds like a really shitty PR stunt that they're not taking seriously, because they address the wild part of the conspiracy theories, but they don't address the other stuff in the privacy policy and the terms of service. The terms of service still somewhat states the same stuff that they took out before. There are just still too many shady things that aren't being addressed, and it almost seems like they're trying to put a public spin on, any PR is good PR. Well, anybody talking about you, that's all ends up being good. But it doesn't. And here's the thing, they said, well, we have record-breaking numbers. Well, how do we know that? Because at this point, they seem to be shady, and they're not really being open and transparent. And that's what I take issue with. I take issue with everything seeming like they're just trying to skirt around stuff. And furthermore, if you are going to take out that information in the terms of service to make sure Philip Defranco is comfortable or what the fuck ever, if you're gonna take all those steps to go do that, have they still really not had a lawyer or even somebody go over this and look to edit this correctly? There are spelling errors. There are they've duplicated words at times. Things are phrased really weird. Punctuation in some of this is really awful. So are you telling me with all of this, you went and you wrote this big article and you've been trying to talk to everybody on Twitter and you've been doing this big kind of PR cleanup, and have you still not had a lawyer go over this to really fully edit it correctly, even the grammar? I don't know, I don't really trust this. It just seems like they're trying to really put a positive spin, and I get it, they're a business, that's what they're supposed to do because they're trying to get their bottom line and save their butts. But they shouldn't do that, in my opinion, at the expense of people's possible private, traumatic, personal information about their experiences. And I think until we understand exactly what these third parties are and exactly where that goes and why are you storing shit off country to places that may or may not respect the privacy laws of your country or have any at all, I think there is cause for concern because we've all been fucked over. And it's not just with YouTube. Yeah, we had Candid, thank you skeptic. We had the Candid app, which ended up being for AI technology and screwing over YouTubers. But in general, one of the reasons people like YouTube is because we know when we turn on the television and watch regular fucking cable television, we are constantly being sold shit. And I think the reason YouTubers get so much more flack is because it's kind of common knowledge at this point. And I think we all want to hold ourselves to a higher standard because we're not the Hollywood elites. We're the average Joes in front of a fucking camera. And it's wonderful and it's amazing and it's a blessing that we are able to do what we do in the way that we do it because this didn't exist 20 years ago, right? Shit, it barely existed 10. I think 2005, 2006 is when it opened? Not even 15 years ago. But I think we all have to be really careful, really, really careful. And to the smaller YouTubers, you better research the hell out of any brand you get, or you know what, I wouldn't take one on at all. Not until you can get management. And when you get management, you better make sure that they are doing their due diligence to protect you and protect your channel or whatever it is that you are putting out there. And protect your audience, more importantly. So I want to have faith that maybe this can be a good thing, but I don't. I don't at the moment. I don't. I'm hoping Philip Defranco is going to try to clean this up. I don't like what he's done so far, but I'm giving benefit of the doubt. And I hope some of the other bigger YouTubers will as well. I guess time will tell. That is my hope. But tell me what you think. What do you guys think? Did I miss anything? I know there's things I've left out. I'm just, honestly, I'm exhausted. And this was just about as good as I could do to get the video out right now. So let me know what you think, guys. But yeah, and sorry if I repeated certain things. There's a lot of information and I want to make sure I get everything out accurately to you. If I repeat stuff, it's not because I think you are dumb, it's because I am dumb. I'm trying to do the best that I can here, so just a heads up, because I've seen some of the comments and trying to take in the criticism, but that's just kind of where I'm at the moment, so my apologies. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Continue to be blessing yourselves and blessing others, and continue to try to find the joy and the sparkles of the bullshit in the world. I love you guys. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much, and that's it. That's it. Take care.